Hello, all you magnificent mathematicians. We are going to dive into these notes. There's a lot of writing, so go ahead and pause now and write it all down, making sure you copy the date and the unit number that we're in, just so you can keep your notes organized and you have easier access to them. So quickly, your vocabulary, constant, coefficient, and variable, you will hear your teachers use these terms because that is what they're called. And every term is separated by an addition or subtraction symbol, not multiplication or division. Like 8p in the example is one term, where 8 is a coefficient and p is your variable. All right, you should already know all that stuff though. Your constant, your coefficient, and your variable. So we're just gonna jump into the steps. And yes, you do have to write it all down. The more you write it, the better you retain it and the better you remember it. Step number 1 is going to be to locate the variable. And I know that sounds simple. However, sometimes we got to be able to point to it and say, there it is. Step number 2, identify what is happening to the variable in PEMDAS order, which is why you see that PEMDAS popped up in the top left. Write it somewhere on your paper where you can easily access it because we'll refer back to it. P for parentheses, E for exponents, multiply, MD, multiply, divide, from left to right. If the division happens first, from left to right, then you do the division first. Addition and subtraction, again, from left to right. Step number 3, undo in reverse PEMDAS order by inverse operations. So guys, when we solve for variables, all we're truly doing is reverse PEMDAS, reverse order of operations, to isolate that variable on its own on one side of the equal sign. Lastly, we are going to check the solution by substitution, meaning substitute that bad boy back in, making sure our equation stays balanced. If it does, then we're good to go. If it does not, then we did something wrong somewhere. So let's go ahead and go into these examples so we can use this knowledge. Example number 1. 5 plus 8p equals 77. Let me use a different color here. Let me use blue. I've located p. There it is. Let me actually just highlight that. And what's happening to p is it is being multiplied by 8. And it is being added by 5. So now I'm going to undo it in reverse PEMDAS order, meaning starting from the bottom, working our way up in reverse. Meaning I'm going to undo that addition and subtraction first because that's what happens last to my variable. So subtract 5 from both sides. 77 minus 5 is 72. 5 minus 5 is 0. That's the whole point. And let's bring down that 8p and my equal sign. Next, I am going to divide by 8 on both sides, undoing that multiplication. That cancels out. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 72 divided by 8, this is mental math. You guys should know this, is 9, because 9 times 8 equals 72. So if p does in fact equal 9, then I'm going to substitute it back in, meaning 5 plus 8 times 9 should equal 77. Well, I know 8 times 9 is 72, and 5 plus 72 is 77. My equation is balanced. Therefore, I know my answer is 9. You're thinking, what? Let's try it again with another example. I have 5/3 k plus 8 equals -3. Well, identified my variable. There's k. Now I'm going to identify what is happening to k in the order of operations. So first, like if I knew what k was, now I'm thinking what would I do first in solving this? It is being multiplied by 5/3, right? I would multiply it times the 5/3. Then I would add 8. And that should equal -3. So now I'm going to undo that in reverse PEMDAS order. So instead of adding 8, I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. 8 minus 8 is 0. That's kind of the whole point. Bringing down the 5/3 k, bringing down my equal sign, making sure everything stays in order. Negative 3 minus 8, same signs, add and keep. So I'm going to add 3 plus 8 is 11 and keep the negative sign. All right, it is being multiplied by 5/3, so I need to divide by 5/3, but this is a fraction, guys. And when we have fractions, we just multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 5/3 is 3/5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/5. So 3/5 times 5/3 equals 15/15, which is 1. Because that cancels out. Bring down my k. Let me rewrite this as both fractions so I can just clearly see it. It looks like I can't cross reduce, so that is 11 times 3 is negative 33. 1 times 5 is 5. So I have negative 33/5. I am going to change that to a mixed number. 5 can go into 33 6 times. Ooh, it's negative. Remainder 3. So k equals negative 6 and 3/5. Or k equals negative 33/5. Or k equals negative 6.6. All the things. Let's look at another example. Example number 9. Sorry, example number 3. Negative 9 plus b divided by 3 equals negative 3. First and foremost, identify your variable. There he is. Then identify what's happening to b in PEMDAS order. So if I knew what b was, how would I solve this first? Well, first I would divide by the 3, right? Then I would subtract 9. Why did I say subtract? Because of that negative. So now I'm going to solve in reverse PEMDAS order. Instead of subtracting 9, I'm going to add 9 to both sides of my equal sign. Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. That's the whole point. Bring down that b divided by 3. Negative 3 plus 9, these have different signs, so I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, which will be the 9, because the 9 is positive, has a larger absolute value. 9 minus 3 is 6. Now, I'm going to multiply, oh, I didn't put the number there, multiply by 3 instead of divide by 3, inverse operations. So multiply both sides by 3, because y'all know parentheses means to multiply. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's the whole point, is getting rid of that, isolating our variable. 6 times 3 is 18. Woo! If b equals 18, when I substitute it back in, my answer should be negative 3. All right, let's look at number 4. And I think that's, no. You know what? Let's look at number, I put 4 twice. Oops. That's supposed to be 5. But yeah, actually, let's look at this number 4, and we'll make this one our last example. All right, so identifying the variable x, there he is. And now let's go through what we would do first, solving, like if I knew what x was, how would I solve this first? Well, first I would add the 8. I'm forgetting letters, guys. Add 8 to x. Then I would divide by the 3, right? So now I'm going to go in reverse order of operations, solving it by doing the same thing to both sides. So instead of dividing by 3, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's the whole point. Bring down that x plus 8. Bring down the equal sign. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I'm going to subtract 8 instead of adding 8 to both sides. Well, 8 minus 8 is 0. That's the whole point. Bring down the equal sign. 9 minus 8 is 1. So x equals 1. If x equals 1, let's substitute it back in. Instead of writing x plus 8, it's 1 plus 8 divided by 3 should equal 3. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. It checks out. It's balanced. Therefore, x does equal 1. All right, guys. If you have any questions on any of this, please, please, please reach out. Oh, How about you write down the last two problems and solve them real quick and see if you understand this.